Local council elections in New South Wales on the weekend saw significant swings against the Greens.
So it was a blow to the Greens. Good news for Labor. Joel Fitzgibbon is the Chief Government Whip and he joins us now from Canberra. Mr Fitzgibbon, good morning to you. Why is this bad news for Greens necessarily good news for Labor?
Well, it's bad news for the Greens because their vote's going down and it's doing so consistently, and it's pretty clear, and I've made the point in the past, that over the course of the last decade or so they've been chipping away at Labor's primary vote, and they've been doing so, in my view, rather mischievously, putting out populist policies without ever being held to account for them. And now, for the first time, they are starting to be held to account. We've shone a spotlight on their policy manifesto, and I think people are starting to wake up to them.
Why do you think their vote went backwards in areas, so green bastions like Marrickville and Balmain and into Sydney? Were there significant federal factors at play here?
Well, I suppose it varies from polling booth to polling booth, suburb to suburb, and indeed region to region. In fact, like in my own region in the Hunter Valley, the Greens are seen to be against everything. We are a region underpinned largely by the coal mining industry. They say we should close down the coal mining industry. I think in the inner city it's quite different. I think for the first time people are starting to more closely examine what they stand for. They see the populism, they see the inconsistency in some of the policies. They start to wake up to the cost and start asking the Greens how they're going to pay for these policies, and as a consequence they start to reflect on voting for the Greens.
Can we therefore expect to see, and there's been obviously evidence of this in recent times, further distancing of the federal Labor and federal Greens relationship?
Well, within the Labor Party, no doubt there will be varying views. Certainly, I believe product differentiation is important. I know it's a pretty popular thing in my electorate to have a crack at the Greens, but I think more importantly the party has to have a broad look of where it's going and what has been the impact of our relationship with the Greens on our own primary vote, and I think the evidence is now in, and we need to ensure that we sell ourselves as a party much different than the Greens. Sure, we agree in certain areas, but there's no doubt, as I said, they've been chipping away at our primary vote, and it's time we fought back and clawed that primary vote back, and that's exactly what's been happening.
Well, many people watching this, Joel Fitzgibbon, would say, well, if federal Labor is so angry with what the Greens have been doing, just tear up that minority government agreement.
Well, we have an agreement with the Greens that they will support us on supply and confidence in the parliament. It's not unusual for two partners to be quite different. Look at the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats in the United Kingdom. It is, if you like, a marriage of convenience. It doesn't mean that we agree with the Greens on every matter, and it doesn't mean the Labor Party should allow itself to be pulled in any particular direction by the Greens. We are a party independent of the Greens. We make and formulate our own policy. We progress that policy. And, you know, I get a little bit unsettled when I see the Greens taking credit for the good things that we do, and then, of course, taking a big whack at us when things don't go quite right.
It's really more than a marriage of convenience, Joel Fitzgibbon. Many people would see it as being a marriage on the rocks.
Well, it's a marriage that allows the Labor Party to stay in power at the Commonwealth level, and that's so important to the millions of people we represent. It's so important for the economy and for progressive policies in this country, and on that basis it's well and truly worth doing.
OK, now let's drill down further into some of these figures. It's not exactly good news for Labor, particularly in your Western Sydney heartland. Swings of more than 20% in some Western seats. We look like seeing a Liberal mayor in Liverpool for the very first time. What is the reaction amongst federal Labor ranks to that? Well,
concern, obviously. We do need to be concerned about Labor's vote in Sydney's West, and there's some evidence that out there they were trying to promote, that is, our opponents were trying to promote federal issues and federal Labor's standing. We need to be
Well, they did that pretty successfully based on those swings.
Well, somewhat successfully, and it's something the Labor Party certainly needs to be concerned about, but it's 1 year to the next election. We've got plenty of time to recover. We'll learn something from the weekend's results and of course, improve our situation. We have plenty of time.
Is Labor's position salvageable in Western Sydney? Can you make up that often very long ground in such a relatively short political space of time?
Well, of course we can. We have very, very good candidates and local members on the ground. We've gone through a very difficult reform program federally. That's always difficult politically, but now we're through that phase. there's every chance to rebuild between now and the next federal election, and I believe we will.
Now, just on another topic, Joel Fitzgibbon, we're looking at that report calling for the decriminalisation of ecstasy and cannabis on the show this morning. What do you think about calls to decriminalise those drugs?
Well, I don't want to say too much. I haven't had an opportunity to have a look at the report. I've only had a glimpse at some of the media reports on the issue. I have to say I'm more a zero tolerance sort of a guy. Well, at the same time, I do recognise that prohibition in any form has never proven too successful, so it's a very, very complex and difficult area of public policy.
And you'd expect the government not to change its view, which is, of course, strongly opposes what this committee has suggested.
I wouldn't hold your breath for any warm embrace of the policy proposals within the federal government.
And just finally, what's Kevin Rudd up to, advertising for a foreign policy advisor?
Well, this has just been mentioned to me as I took my seat. I know nothing about it, but foreign affairs, of course, is an area of policy interest for Kevin Rudd, so I suppose we shouldn't be all that surprised, but I'm a bit surprised that he needs a policy advisor. Well,
many people would argue that, but a job worth $150,000 a year was advertised in some of the weekend papers. Which other backbenchers, and you're the whips, you should know the answer to this question, which other backbenchers have foreign policy advisors?
Well, I suspect none, and no doubt we'll all be envious, but you'll have to put these questions to Kevin.
We shouldn't read anything deeper into this?
I wouldn't think so, no.